Everybody say, yeah, yeah. Ojogudu, 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 ojogudu. Time like this, you wanna think again, you. Ask yourself the reasons for your life. By and by, you come to see the truth. You go see, hey, you go know.
This is Paulette on FiveEyes.tv. Today I will be speaking with Bukky Leo, who is a musician and has just released a brand new, groundbreaking Afro Beat album. Welcome, Bukky, to FiveEyes.tv.
To be on FiveEyes.tv, Paulette.
Bukky, you have worked with many artists. Can you tell me the names of some of the artists that you have worked with?
Wow. Yes, I've worked with people like Giles Peterson. I've worked with Tony Allen, groundbreaking drummer. I've worked with Fela Kuti. Royers, of course. I've worked with people like Coleridge Good, who's the legendary bass player with Joe Harriet's quintet. I've worked with Hugh Masekela on a tour. I've actually stood in for Manu Dibango on a gig with the JBs. He wasn't able to come down, so they called me, which I felt privileged to be called to do such a show. Those are the ones I can remember. Think of a few. Yeah, I've worked with a few.
I understand you've had an acquaintance with legendary saxophonist Joe Henderson.
Oh, Joe Henderson was my mentor. He was my saxophone mentor. I always wanted to sound and play like him, and I had the pleasure of meeting him, and we got on fine, you know, and he invited me to come to his house in the USA. I went to San Francisco, and yeah, he's a great man. May his soul rest in perfect peace. He's left us now, but he's well missed, and his music lives on.
How long have you been in the music business?
All my life, basically, since the day I was born. I started crying, and then at the age of 3, 4, I started to, you know, I was always singing, entertaining my household with a bunch of kids, and we get together to tell stories in the evening. That's a tradition that we used to have before the computer came in, before the new technology came in. We sit down and tell stories. And, you know, I've always been the entertainer amongst the family right up until now. So if you ask me that question, it's a lifeline, lifetime answer you're going to get.
You were spotted playing by Tony Allen. Where was this?
This was in Lagos. This was a place called A Joint. We call it A Joint. You know, it's a place where people gather, they come and play music, talk. It's a kind of like a community, like a social place. It's like a garden like this, you know. It's, you know, people sit around, some smoking, some drinking, some chatting, and, you know, but people meet there. It's kind of like, and I take my saxophone there, and I practice there sometimes because I hang out. Yeah, it's like a hang. You know, people hang out, and Tony was there. I've known him to come there. He comes there quite regularly, but I wasn't expecting him to approach me at all. You know, I was just doing my thing like I always do, and and he approached me and said he likes what he hears, would I like to play in this band called the Mighty Roccos back then. It was the Mighty Roccos, and we did a few gigs in King Sunny Ade's club, you know, and Patty Street back in Lagos. Yeah, so cool.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, I still work with him when he comes to London with the Afro Beat messengers and stuff. You know, last time we met, it was on a gig. I was in Spain. He was doing a show, and I was on the same bill. So it was nice to kind of reconnect again. And he asked me to come on stage, and I did, you know, a couple of numbers with the band, you know, so that felt good.
Out of all the people you have worked with, who would you say you have enjoyed working with the most?
Gee, I enjoy working with Tony Allen. You know, I enjoy being with the Fela organization as well, because with Fela, there was a political and a religious, you know, meaning to it. We had this organization called the Young African Pioneers, and Lemmy Gary Oku, Duro, ID Noble, there's quite a few of us who were at the pinnacle of that. And the Young African Pioneers were organization which Fela was he was behind it, the patron, if you like. We had a message, and the message was that all Africans are the same, no matter where you come from, whether you're Ghanaian or a Congolese or Egyptian, especially Egyptian. The message was strong, but the government misunderstood us. They thought we were a political, you know, movement who were about to take over the country, you know, or, you know, take over the political system, you know. And anyway, but if you ask me who I enjoyed, so all that kind of comprises why I enjoyed working with Fela, because it wasn't just music. There was a purpose. You know, Afro Beat is not just it's not just a music. It's a way of life. You know, you live your life by it. You know, you and the whole thing with Tony Allen, with Fela, and that went out to other places. You know, it's a strong, you know, kind of spiritual and political kind of movement.
We've talked about Joe Henderson,
Yes.
but who else inspired you?
Joe inspired me in a way that for the fact that he's my saxophone mentor.
Yeah.
And he gave me lessons and stuff. I enjoyed working with people like the JBs, you know, Pee Wee Ellis, you know, is a great guy to hang with, you know, he's got a lot of stories to tell with James Brown. You know, you know, it goes from there. You know, I get my inspirations from all sorts of musicians, you know. Another great guy who inspired me is Coleridge Good, who, bless his cotton socks, he's still around. He's 97.
Wow.
And he is still living in Notting Hill. And, you know, he's one of my main inspirations because, you know, he shows you a clean way of living, you know, and he's a prime example of what he preaches, which is, you know, stay clean, stay away from the drugs, you know, do things at a minimal and live a good life, you know, treat people the way you want to be treated, you know, great musician, great man, you know, Coleridge Good, the only one and only. Yeah, so I can think of a lot more, but we could be here all day.
Did you study music, and if so, where?
Yes, I studied music. I went to college, I went to Goldsmith to study music, but my real musical education came from the streets. My real musical education came from the Calcutta Republic, the University of Calcutta, as we like to call it. And the street, like Miles Davis, who went to Gilead School of Music, but his real musical education came from playing with Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie. That's where his real musical education came from. It's kind of like the same with me. You know, I went to Goldsmith to study composing and arranging, but my real musical education came from working with people like Fela Kuti, Tony Allen, you know, on the streets, University of the Streets, you know, out there playing, learning from people who are actually out there doing it. that you can't learn from school.
No, that's definitely true. What are your fondest memories? Speaking to you, I can see you seem to have many.
I'm wondering where to start. Yeah, I think one of the greatest memories and one of my fondest memories during the times of the Shrine. There was, the club where we played Afro Beat in Lagos is called the Shrine. And it's not just a club, it's almost like a church. You go there, there's a shrine there where people actually devote, show their devotion for their deities. We've got deities of African, rulers like Nkrumah, like Shango, like Ogun, like Yemaja, all these great these gods who, I was growing up as a little Christian Catholic boy, and those kind of things were supposed to be seen as evil or things that you're not supposed to associate with as a Christian boy. But when my eyes opened and I discovered African history, I realized that it is the mother of Western civilization. The history of Africa actually civilized the whole world. So it was a revelation for me. And so I really enjoyed working in that organization. It opened my eyes, and it's a thing called Blackism, which is forever. You live like that. It controls the way you think, the way you approach life, the way you approach people, because you know where you're coming from. Right. So you know where you're heading, So I enjoy that organization. The Kalakuta, the Young African Pioneers, working with Fela and Tony Allen, all those guys. Those are the things that mold me to be what I am today.
Okay. Tell me a bit about your background.
You just heard it.
Yeah, I know, but yeah. I mean, from when you were young and growing up.
All right.
And where were you born?
All right. Interestingly, I was actually born in Notting Hill, really? The land of the carnival. And I was taken back to Lagos when I was taken to Lagos for the first time when I was a child at 6 years old, and I spent most of my life there basically. Went to primary school. I remember the trip to Lagos for the first time was by a boat. We went by a cruise. And I was good friends with the captain who, showed me around places where I shouldn't be at my age, but he carried me, took me to casinos and showed me places and stuff. But yes, so I grew up in Lagos more or less. And Lagos is a tough city. Lagos, if you can live in Lagos, you can live anywhere else in the world. If you can survive there, because it's tough, So coming from England, going to Lagos for the first time was quite an eye-opener. I didn't know how to approach it, but you soon get to, first thing I noticed was kids were playing football with no shoes on. And there was no tiles, the floor was just rough, with barefoot. I'm like, wow, I never take my shoes off, In England, we wear shoes all the time. So, but within a few months, I was, running around with them, playing, toughening my soles. And I soon became one of them, and I still am one of them.
Which do you prefer, performing on stage or in a studio?
On stage.
On stage.
On stage is the best. Studio is good because you can mold things, you can take your time. But live, you can actually get people's reaction.
That's right, yeah.
And, live is what I live for, You've got to do records, you've got to produce records, to sell and stuff. But yeah, live answers that question straight away.
Well, I've seen you perform on stage and the band was tight.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Really tight. This is Paulette on 5eyes.tv Profiles, speaking with Bukky Leo. We'll be back shortly.
Hey, this is the first single from the groundbreaking new Afro Beat album. It's called Skeleton, and it's the first single to be released from the album produced by the great dub master Dennis Bovell. This particular single has got 4 songs on it, and it's got some remixes by Giles Peterson. How y'all feeling on that? Everybody say yeah, yeah. We got ready for an Afro Beat breakfast. We have an album coming out. We have a new album coming out. Produced by the great dub master Dennis Bovell, who happens to be in the house tonight. Give it up for Dennis Bovell. Oh yes, he's in the house tonight. We got a single coming out from that album, which is remixed by Giles Peterson, and that should be out sometime this summer. For further information, look into BukkyLeo.com. You get all the information there. Right now we're gonna do that single from that album. It's called Skeleton. my way. You can see the traces of my family. So when you cruise the land, you can see the traces of my ancestors. Contributing to civilized society. Contributing to civilized technology. Contributing to civilized technology. Let's take it like that, my father.
Black Egypt Group. When and how was this group formed?
That is interesting because it was when I made this voyage to Egypt back in the early 90s. And you know, my trip took me to the Valley of the Kings, the Valley of the Queen. We didn't actually go to Cairo, to the pyramids, which a lot of people go to. We went to Kemet, where the religious center is in Egypt. Therefore, you know, my travels and my discoveries kind of gave me the idea to call the band Black Egypt at the time. We did a trip to this temple called the Temple of Philae, which is near Alexandria. They had to build a dam there, so they had to move the whole temple from one location to the other. And I you know, I thought to myself, well, I can't be in Egypt and not have a swim in the Nile. So I was on one of these boats called Falikat something. Anyway, I dived into the river, you know, and next thing I know, the sailor, the guy who was, you know, sailing the boat, he said, you know, there's crocodiles in that water. Do you know that? You know, and I was, you know, the speed in which I got out of the water was amazing. But I fulfilled my dream to swim in the Nile, which is the important thing. But yeah.
Nearly at the cost of your life.
Nearly at the cost of my life. But thank heaven I'm still here. Yes.
Rejoice in Righteousness, your first #1 record. Can you share some of those moments with Stop TV viewers?
That came about through my association with Giles Peterson, the Radio 1 DJ, who's, you know, he had a label called the Acid Jazz Records. He ran it with a guy called Eddie Pillar. And, you know, he heard me, he's known about me for some time, and he got a chance to hear me and approached me and asked me if I want to do an album or, you know, do something for Acid Jazz Records, which I thought was good. So we went into studio and came up with, you know, this is a song that I've always had in my head, but I've never really it's called Rejoice in Righteousness. And what we did is we got the church choir in to play along with us. So when we recorded the album, then we got them in to overdub some stuff. And it became an anthem for the acid jazz era back in the 80s, you know, at that time. All the clubs were playing it, and even now, the album itself is like gold dust. Because if you get hold of the vinyl, it's going for nearly £500 now. because you can't get the vinyl. It's been out of production for some time. I mean, but it's still, well, sought after. So that was good because it went straight to #1 in the rhythm and blues charts back then, and it led to other things, which is good.
Right, you have a new album coming out shortly. Yes,
we have a new album. What we've done is we've done a kind of U-turn, if you like. I approached a great friend of mine called Dennis Bovell, who is a great producer. He's produced people like Fela Kuti, and he's known as the godfather of dub. And I wanted that bass sound, and he knows how to get that big fat bass sound. So I approached him, in a studio, of course. And he was up for it. So we recorded. It took a while, but we recorded the whole album together. And that is due to be out sometime in September, early October. We are going to be launching the album at Ronnie Scott's, the legendary jazz club, Ronnie Scott's. Upstairs, we're just going to do a showcase, and then we're going to launch the album. But I think it should be available. It's called Anarchy.
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 Right.
And the first single to come out of the album is called Skeleton, which I've got a copy of that here. We've gone back to the old school days, back to the vinyl, approach, and people are kind of excited about it.
And I've had the pleasure of seeing you perform that.
Yes. It's one of, well-desired tracks. When we play it, people get excited, and, it's a favorite, if you like. Yeah, so pretty good. Looking forward to the release and stuff. It's going to be on the 10th of October, which is a Wednesday, kind of early launch, for the showcase at Ronnie Scott's. So I have to see you guys down there.
Yes, excellent, definitely. Do you play any other musical instruments?
The first musical instrument I ever played was the mouth organ, which is we call harmonica, one like that. I used to play the national anthem with that. And I can still play it today because it's a bit of inhaling, and that's exhaling. That's the approach to which you play that. I write my songs with a piano. I'm not a piano player, but I write chords. I can compose, so I did arranging. And congas, because we have this church back in Lagos called the Aladura. Cherubim and Seraphim, or we call them Cherubim, as we like to call them now. They're all well white. But one thing they do have, which is amazing, is conga playing, where they play conga, and the rhythms are out of this world, fantastic rhythms that used to send people on a trance. People go into a trance and they start freaking out, rolling on the floor, because the rhythms, it's not because they're getting some kind of message from anywhere. It's the rhythm. It's the rhythm that gets into their system, and it just messes them up. It just makes them kind of like go.
Wow.
So congas is one of my favorite instruments. I love playing the conga. If I at the risk of not offending my percussionist in Black Egypt, I try to kind of refrain myself to just playing the shekere with the band, but I love to play the conga. Conga, if I could do both and sing at the same time, play conga, I will. But we have a conga player in the band who is excellent.
Oh, he is excellent. Definitely. Mind you, all the band members, I think, are excellent.
Yeah,
anyway.
His name is Tunde Baker. Tunde Baker, great percussionist. Great working with him.
When you're not playing music, what else do you do? How do you relax?
Oh, relax. I chill out. I like to read. I do a lot of reading. I like to watch documentaries as well. I like documentaries about, educational stuff. I like cooking. Cooking is one of my favorite. Oh, yes. In fact, on the album, we have a track called Afro Beat. And it talks about African cuisine. I love cooking, and I like entertaining people, in the kitchen. I know where everything is. So I don't mind a bit of help. I'm not one of these people who like, get out of my kitchen. No, the more the merrier, so long as I know where things are.
You were nominated for the US African Music Awards in New York. Can you tell me a bit about this?
That came about when we did an album with Mo's Records called River Nile. And it was just at the tail end of the acid jazz era when that album came out. It's got people like Gary Crosby on bass, who's plays with Courtney Pine. It's got, in fact, a lot of the cats there from Jazz Warriors, back in those days. One of the guys who organized the festival got to hear the album, and he had the opportunity to see us live, and invited us to the US and said, we're going to be having this this award ceremony. Would you like to take part? And he would like to nominate that album for, a prize. So, hey, why not? And yeah, so we went to Brooklyn, and which is where the ceremony took place in New York. And yeah, I was given an award. I don't know if I actually won. They gave the award to quite a few people like Sonny Okosun and some other guys I can't recall.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was given an award for African music, which I was quite pleased about. Yes.
Yeah, great.
Alex, on the guitar. Come on now, everybody. Oh, mama, precious mother.
So what advice would you give to anyone who wanted to become a musician?
For up-and-coming musicians, I would say follow your dream, stick to it no matter how difficult it becomes, you know, because it's tough out there. It's not easy. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. So just stick to it, you know, just, you know, whatever you do, even if you just practice your instrument once a day or once a week, just stay with it, and hopefully something will, you know, have your, you know, stay with your beliefs, you know, stick to it, you know. No matter how long it takes you, sometimes it takes a lifetime, and you might not actually achieve the kind of success you want, but you can say you've done it.
You followed your dream.
You followed your dream and you stuck to it.
At the moment, they're playing a lot of Afro Beat music on the radio. How does that make you feel? What do you think about that?
Well, I've got a thing about that, because you see, Afro Beat is, when you define the word Afro Beat, Afro is associated with black. It's a kinky something, black Afro, you know, is an Afro. And the beat is a rhythm. So the beat, rhythm, black rhythm. So now, you know, they got this thing called world music, where they, you know, pigeonhole everything into world music. Now, Afrobeat is a particular kind of genre of music, which has got its own individual kind of beats, which if it's not that beat, it's not Afrobeat. It could be world music, but it's not Afrobeat. Now, when you look around these days, they call it, because Afrobeats become fashionable, people call anything Afrobeat, even if it's the Guru dancers from Rwanda or something. Everything, they just label it Afrobeat because it's got black rhythm, you know. So although it's good to have the word, but it needs to be a bit more defined, and it needs to be differentiated from world music. You know, world music is a bit of a cliche. Afrobeat is Afrobeat, world music is world music, and Afrobeat has got its own kind of, it's a different genre in its own way. You know, like you could do different mixes. Like if a new song comes out, they can have like a jungle mix, they can have a drum and bass mix, you know, they can have a house mix, and they can have a soulful mix, you know, that kind of thing. The same thing occurs when you come to Afrobeat. You can have an Afrobeat mix, which will change the music, that song, completely. And just like you do a house mix of a song, you know. So it's a different genre altogether, and people shouldn't misconstrue, you know, Afrobeat with just world music and stuff like that, you know.
Thank you very much, Bukky. It was a pleasure having you here share your life and experience with us at FiveEyes.tv.
It was my pleasure to share my life with FiveEyes.tv.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This is Bukky Leo on FiveEyes.tv.
So you push it to the right, then you push it to the left. Which way you gonna go? So you start to find your way. So you fight to find your way. Accident become one you do? I said, which one you do? You know the way before. I said, which one you do? I said,
wọ́n ní kí n rántí àṣálẹ́ o àṣálẹ́ la máa ṣe ẹyọ bàbá ń ta wá tó ń fi góòlù ṣeré àwa ò ní sanwó níbodè ó dilé.
The sound of the drum.
ìkówó ìjèlè abóògbọ jálẹ̀kùn ẹ̀ a máa lọ́lé o. Òrìṣà la máa bọ̀. I want to bring people back to Africa, to Egypt, to black Egypt.
The sound of the drum.
Òrìṣà la máa bọ̀. Òrìṣà ilé. Ọ̀pá ló ń bẹjọ látọ̀nà tó ṣèdí wẹ́rẹ́kẹ́. Tó dá fún ládéyọrí jù ló ń ṣayé àìjì ògbè. Lọ́jọ́ tó ń fẹ́ ní òròdì wítì rẹ̀ wọ́n ní kó rúbọ òbí àti iyọ̀ ló fi rúbọ. Látọjọ́ náà wọ́n ti fi ọ̀rọ̀ rí sọ́tì ẹ̀ o. Àtẹ̀wé àdàgbà ẹ̀fẹ̀ mi yọ pé tèmi. Àtẹ̀wé àdàgbà ẹ̀fẹ̀ mi yọ pé tèmi.
The sound of the drum.
Egypt, the land that gave birth to writing, philosophy, science, religion, the essential components of civilization.